When Reservoir Dogs first hit the cinemas, it was something of an unexpected hit. Quentin Tarantino was a first-time director, and for all intents and purposes, this was an independent film. And so, its success caught the world by surprise, meaning of course that there was very little merchandising at the time of the release of the film. However, 10 years later, in celebration of the film, there would be an awful lot of merchandise to make up for it and to capitalise on the film's 10th anniversary. And as part of this, toy company Mezco decided to do a line of 6-inch action figures based on the film. Today I'll be looking at the 4 main releases, which of course was Mr. Pink, Mr. Orange, Mr. White and Mr. Blonde. Straight off we can see from the packaging there's a lot of colour to the packaging. They've tried to capture the vibe of the film, which is great, and I love all the little bullet holes and things like that. Also, the back of the packaging is quite fun as well. They've tried to make it look like a bit of a movie poster with the credits at the bottom there, and they've given a little bit of character profiles for each of the figures in this wave, which is fantastic. And they've also given it a little bit of a comic book vibe as well, in terms of the text that have accompanied it. And as I said, at the bottom there you've got more of a film poster kind of feel, which is fantastic. First up we have Mr. Pink, of course portrayed by Steve Buscemi. This, I think, is a really good likeness. I think it's pretty much screen accurate. I think one of the challenges that this line had, of course, is how to make each of the characters feel unique when they're all wearing the exact same outfit. In this case, obviously, he's got the open suit there. And I do think that the likeness is really excellent, actually. Again, we have to bear in mind this is a figure going back to sort of 2002-ish sort of time. And yeah, I think the detailing is really excellent. Now, he does also come with a pair of shades as well. All the figures do. Each pair of shades is obviously unique to each character. So they've done a really nice job of capturing that. And in terms of accessories, he comes with his the money bag as well, which is great, and there's lots of texture and detail and a lot of paint apps to that, which I think is really nice to give it that leather effect, so I think that's really cool. Now, in terms of articulation, it is the same for all the figures. He does have a swivel neck, he does have these cool shoulder joints as well, so they do push back and then also have a swivel on top of that, so you can get a wide sweeping range in the arms to swing out, which is great. And of course they can swivel all the way up and down as well, which I think is really nice. It does have the bicep swivel as well, which is cool, and single jointed elbows. And of course the wrists do rotate 360 degrees, and you can swap the hands out because they all come with alternate hands. There's a single swivel at the waist as well. And then we have the legs. Now, I would say if there's one weakness to these figures, it would be the legs. They have this swivel joint at the hips there, which, as you can imagine, isn't going to allow for a lot of, natural posing. It does have a swivel in the thigh, which is great, and has single jointed knees as well as a calf swivel. There is no foot or ankle articulation whatsoever, and each of the legs is different on each of the figures to create walking poses. So it does limit you quite a lot. Moving on to Mr. White, again, excellent attention to detail. Each figure obviously comes with their own set of accessories that is unique to the character, and of course each figure is trying to desperately make each character feel distinct and unique in their body size and how they're wearing their outfit. So in this case, obviously Mr. White has the costume, the blazer closed, and of course he comes with dual pistols as well, which is fantastic. In terms of the likeness, I think this is a decent likeness of Harvey Keitel. I'm not quite sure about the eyes, but certainly the mouth and the nose and the forehead look great. But overall, I'd say this is probably the weakest of the 4 in terms of the likeness. Now, he actually is a little bit different because he actually has 2 holes in the side of his head for his shades to actually slide into. So this is great so that the shades fit very snugly and perfectly into his head. But on the other hand, obviously you take the glasses out and it looks a little bit odd having those holes there. So it does kind of force you to have the shades on all the time. Again, you can see that it has obviously very unique shoes and legs, completely different to Mr. Pink, which I have mixed feelings about this. On the one hand, I think it's really cool that each figure is unique. On the other hand, it does feel like you are really limiting the articulation, and you really need to utilise those little miniature round bases that they come with, otherwise these figures are not going to stand up, and you are limited what kind of poses you can put them in. Now, aside from his 2 pistols and his shades, he also comes with a lighter as well. I think this is a nice little touch, although the lighter obviously is just one shade there. Obviously, he doesn't come with any cigarettes, so it almost feels a little bit redundant, but quite nice to have. Moving on to Mr. Orange, again, I think they've caught a really nice likeness of Tim Roth. And once again, they've tried to distinguish the character by giving him a very different pose when it comes to the legs, and a bit more of a thinner body type. The tie is obviously moved to one side as if it's blowing in the wind, so it creates that unique feel. As I said, the likeness is very good. I think one of the problems with this line is, very often the eyes look a bit too bulging, but really, it's a minor criticism. I think the actual likeness is incredibly good for the time the figure was made. Interestingly, he comes with a black pistol, and he also comes with a police badge as well, of course, as well as his shades and his stand. So again, once again, I think all these figures look better with their shades on. And I think this looks really good. There's an incredible amount of attention to detail here, and a lot of articulation in these figures as well that, makes them really appealing. Last but not least, we have, of course, Mr. Blonde, as played by Michael Madsen. And again, there's definitely a slight haunch at the top there of his back, creating that unique feel and, again, screen accurate in terms of capturing his walk and whatnot. Again, the likeness is excellent. He actually has quite bloodshot eyes, which I'm not sure is accurate from the film, but they have also managed to capture that sort of 5 o'clock shadow as well in the stubble, which is great. And once again, you can see obviously he's got different shoes, it's more of a matte paint job this time, and of course the pose is slightly different yet again. And Mezco haven't shied away from giving him plenty of accessories. Aside from his pistol and his shades, he also comes with his razor, which again is an open razor, it looks really good. And also his milkshake as well, which I think is really cool. Of course, these figures all have alternate hands, so they can hold their accessories perfectly, and I think they've done a fantastic job of this, really. It's giving you an awful lot. All 4 figures come with a base. It's a flat piece of plastic. The idea is that they're supposed to sort of sit together so that they recreate some road to help recreate that walking scene from the beginning of the film. I think this was a nice effort. I'm not really convinced by it, to be honest. It does look like just 4 black slabs when you put them together, but it was a nice effort anyway. Now you might notice in this picture, of course, there are 5 Reservoir Dogs. That's because they did do a special release of Mr. Brown, which of course is Quentin Tarantino. This wasn't one of the regular releases, and so wasn't easy to get hold of. But the line didn't stop there. Mezco released another couple of special releases as well. There was Mr. Orange and Mr. White Bloodied Effect, and of course Mr. Blonde without his jacket for the torture scene with the police officer. A few years later, NECA would actually do their own range of figures. They would actually say single carded, but also in a box set, all 5 of these figures again. These figures were a lot more slimline, they looked a bit more screen accurate, but they did not have as much in terms of articulation. So looking at these figures all these years later, I still think these figures stand up really well. Although admittedly they do need the help with their little round bases, I think, to get them in position sometimes, and certainly they are sort of limited to striking certain poses because they just look silly in others, or they won't stand. But that being said, I do think the likenesses are fantastic. I think the accessories to come with are really plentiful. I think the articulation is really fun, particularly in the arms. And I think they've done a really great job of them. And I think they look fantastic on display. I hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, please do give it a like. And remember to subscribe, as I'll be posting more videos soon.